Wall was a 14-year-old orphan boy, a drifter who wandered the land without roots or destination. He had no family, no shelter, and no sense of belonging, only the constant motion of survival. Then one day, he crossed paths with a frightening-looking man. Before he could react, everything went black. When Wall finally regained consciousness, he found himself submerged in absolute darkness. There was no light, and the space around him was pitch black, void of any visible boundaries. Disoriented, he wondered where he had been taken. He tried to move, but discovered that his body refused to cooperate. He could not muster even a shred of strength. His frail form shivered in the cold darkness, and tears pooled in his eyes as confusion and fear closed in. He replayed the chain of events that led him here and remembered the unsettling man who had murmured that Wall looked useful. He became certain that the man was connected to his abduction. However, Wall knew nothing about him, neither his name nor his identity. He questioned why he had been imprisoned. He could not recall offending anyone or earning any grudges. For that reason, he reasoned that the man must have a purpose beyond murder. If they wanted him dead, they would not have kept him alive. Breathing heavily, Wall tried to recall everything about himself as a way to retain sanity. Time slipped by indistinguishably. In the darkness, he could not tell whether he had been unconscious or awake. The boundary between sleep and wakefulness dissolved. Terrified and alone, he had no choice but to repeat his own name and history in his mind, clinging to his identity before giving in to insanity. But no one knew how long this torment would last. While hunger consumed him, Wall wondered endlessly about the man's motives. What purpose could this serve? Even if he was nothing more than a beggar with no ties, no one deserved to be thrown into such hell. Anger flared within him. Fueled by desperation, Wall forced himself to lift his hand. To his shock, his fingers twitched. He could breathe a lot easier too, making him relieved his bodily senses were returning. As he sniffed around, he detected a damp, earthy smell. The floor beneath him felt cold and solid, leading him to deduce that he must be underground. He also heard the sounds of droplets of water, stirring an intense thirst within him. Wall gathers every bit of strength available and crawls toward the sound, driven by nothing more than the need to survive. He was determined to endure and survive. His hand eventually brushed against a solid wall. As he traced its surface, his fingers scraped against sharp rock, drawing blood. The pain and blood loss overwhelmed him, causing him to slump to the ground. Soon, he lost consciousness. When Wall opened his eyes again, his vision seemed blurry, but he could make out a familiar figure standing before him. It was him, Wall. This version of Wall looked at him curiously, questioning why he was trying so desperately to survive. He remarked that it was laughable, wondering what was so worthwhile about his insignificant life that he would struggle so fiercely to hold on to it. Instead, he encouraged Wall to simply give up. He asserted that surrender would bring peace. Wall meekly asked if true peace would really come from letting everything go. He answered that he did not believe so. He declared that he was determined to survive. But the other version of himself merely rolled his eyes, saying that Wall was wasting his strength. Wall stated that if he died without even stabbing the one who trapped him in this place, he would never be able to close his eyes, not even in death. Therefore, he intended to survive until the bitter end and exact revenge on everyone who turned him into this miserable state. His counterpart smiled as he witnessed Wall's unwavering resolve. Wall eventually regained consciousness, but he was still surrounded by complete darkness, unable to see anything at all. He wondered if the previous encounter had been a dream or if he was genuinely beginning to lose his sanity. Forcing his exhausted body to move again, he shifted his gaze toward the stone wall and noticed something that resembled moss. He had no idea whether it was edible, but he had no choice, and so he ate it. He found the taste repulsive, but after consuming it, he realized that his body did not react negatively. He concluded it was at least somewhat edible. Wall then estimates that the confined space was roughly a 3x3 enclosure. It became clear to him that he had been placed here intentionally. He soon spots an iron door, astonishing him. A narrow frame at the bottom soon opens up, spilling blinding light into the darkness. Wall was blinded by it and averts his eyes. Regardless, he called out for help and crawled toward it. Moments later, a hand reached inside the frame, presenting a bowl. It was then instantly slammed shut, plunging Paya Wall back into the darkness. Paya Wall tries to reach out for the frame, but he soon smells food. Picking up the bowl, he detected the scent of rotten fish, old tea leaves, and pork. It was a mixture of at least 5 different leftovers. He reasoned that one person eating 5 distinct items at once was highly unlikely, so the food must have been collected from multiple sources. That meant it was not merely one person behind this. At least 5 different individuals were involved, which meant there was no chance he was the only one imprisoned like this. No one would construct such a space solely to contain him. It was too inefficient. There were at least 5 managers overseeing this place, and if so, it was logical that more than 5 captives existed in similar conditions. Paya Wall could not yet determine their objective, but he was sure of his theory so far. As he ate, he told himself he had time to think. Whatever the food was, it was better than the moss. After finishing the bowl, he sat quietly in the darkness and ponders deeply about a strategy to escape. Approximately 4 months have passed since Paya Wall had been trapped here. Once a day, they open the small door to provide food. Besides that, they never say a word. They continue to imprison him in this narrow and dark space. Paya Wall would go insane from being put in a situation like this, but he has not been spending his time doing absolutely nothing. He has been exercising to keep himself sane. Little by little, he has come to notice. He is able to see his surroundings a little. He is somewhat adapting to this pitch-black environment and can see things moving in this underground space. So many insects live in a place like this without a single ray of light shining through. However, today a snake slides across his hand and bites him. Paya Wall screams in pain. His entire body felt like it was on fire. He wonders if it could be snake venom. He struggles with the pain as he grits his teeth. He eventually faints from exhaustion. However, when the next food shift arrives, he grabs the bowl with determination, not wanting to die. The snake was still looking at him from a distance. But after some time, he stares at the snake. He almost died because of that thing's venom. But Paya Wall thinks some sort of change occurred within his body during the detoxifying process, and he can see better in front of him now. Paya Wall finds the change fascinating and wonders if it is really because of the snake. He tries to touch it, but it shrieks in response. Paya Wall has heard stories of people becoming stronger from surviving after being poisoned before. He guesses if he can gain resistance to poison or if he can gain a weapon, it will be useful for his escape. He deliberately lets the snake bite him this time. Once again, his entire body felt like it was on fire. But even so, it is not as bad as the first time he was bitten. He grins as he looks at the snake. Its eyes have degenerated from the darkness, but it is an exceptional hunter. It approaches its prey stealthily and sometimes even incapacitates its prey using sound, but even so, it is not greedy. After it finishes its meal, it does not make the mistake of chasing the insects away by intimidating them. Paya Wall guesses the only ones who have intelligence in this darkness are the snake and him. He suddenly senses the ground vibrating. Just then, a door opened. Paya Wall, struck with surprise, opens it and finds a long corridor. He finds the next room 20 steps away and guesses that is why he could not sense the presence of others. He opens the door and is instantly struck with the smell of rotting flesh. He couldn't tell in much detail, but from their build, they were around his age. He wonders if it is the same for the other rooms. He walks to the end of the corridor and finds an iron door blocking the hallway. He looks down and sees the bolts were taken out. Paya Wall uses all his might in opening the heavy door. When he finally does, he finds people on the other side of it. There were a girl and a boy who were mutually shocked to see him. He moves to the other one and sees that it's all the same here. The girl gathers courage and asks him who he is and where he came from. She reveals that she and the other boy are the only survivors here. Paya Wall could see that she was not looking directly at him because it was too dark. It seems like he is the only one who has fully adapted to it. Paya Wall introduces himself, saying he was trapped in the adjacent sector. The girl was shocked and yelled, questioning if there were more places like this. Paya Wall affirms and asks for their name. The girl reveals her name to be So Yowal and the boys Chunwoo. Paya Wall takes one look at them and suggests that they leave. He says, there are probably more places like this. The girl and the boy were shocked to see the corridor and began to follow Paya Wall. Yowal tells Chunwoo to hold her hand as it is dark. He does a store, and they continue to make their way forward. Soon enough, they got to meet many other people who were trapped. Paya Wall observes that unlike where he was, there are barely any people who starved to death. They committed suicide instead. There are more bowls and food here than where he was as well. This makes him wonder if they were discriminating, but it was pretty appalling. What could they possibly be planning to discriminate against in management between sectors? Yowal calls out to him, distracting him from his thoughts, and reveals that she found guys who were trapped around the same time they were. They all then began to make their way forward. Paya Wall soon comes across an iron door. On the other side of it was blinding light. No, it was not the outside. They were still underground. They have been underground for so long that even the light from a torch blinds them. His eyes widened as he saw some structured houses, but there was no one there. It was flimsy, so he could tell it was made in a hurry. It was just made for appearances, as the interior is poorly made as well. But why? He is distracted once again as a girl, Li Min, smiles at him and says that she will be in his care from now on. She leans forward and asks if he would like this from the start, pointing towards his red pupils. Paya Wall is instantly taken aback, shocked that his pupils are bright red. He wonders if it has something to do with him being bitten by that snake. He knows it is not good to be different from others in a place like this. Li Min responds that it's faintly red when there is a torch nearby, but it is not very visible normally. She guesses it must have happened to him when he was here then, as he did not know clearly. She also points out how he is different from the other kids and smiles. She says he is the only one thinking rather than when they are all confused. Yowal approaches once again, revealing that the other kids have decided to stick together from now on, and asks what they want to do. Paya Wall says that they will see. Yowal is completely surprised and asks if he is saying he doesn't want to come with them. Paya Wall says he is just saying he will wait to see how things go. Yowal smiles and tells him to feel free to come see her if he changes his mind. She then asks Li Min. Li Min ponders for a bit and agrees to join them. She says sticking together is much more advantageous for survival than being alone. Paya Wall believes that they have been isolated in the dark for far too long, so there is no way they are right in the head. Even though he cannot believe it for the others, he decides to just watch them from afar. For now, of course. It has only been a short while since the kids saw each other's faces. Several groups have already been formed. The group with Yowal and Chinwoo as the key members, the group that Kang Il leads, the group that gathered with Iljung as its focus, and the group with Yongsun and one kid who isn't a part of any group. The children, of course, began to talk about it. They had heard the sector Paya Wall was and had no survivors, making them wonder how he survived when everyone else died. He also talked about the possibility of him killing the others. Paya Wall could only sigh quietly in return. The world is the same wherever you go. It does not have the leeway to pay any mind to those guys right now. He is certain this building was made recently. However, since there are tons of moss, it means that this underground space was built a very long time ago. But someone has used this recently. Whoever it is, they must be extremely wealthy. It is not something that an average person can do. He suddenly sees light from the ceiling. It was like a basket descending from there. To everyone's surprise, it was filled with food and they decided to eat. Yowal and Chinwoo, however, stopped them, suggesting they distribute them fairly amongst all of them. But just then, Paya Wall makes his way forward, saying that he is going to take his share as well. But Il-young rudely stops him, saying that no one takes food from the bus kid without their permission. Paya Wall doesn't say anything. Instead, he punches the boy in his face, causing him to bleed. This shocks everyone. They all were intimidated by his murderous intent, thinking that he was insane. Yowal steps forward, telling him to let go of Il-young. She agrees to let no one touch his share of food. After the others agreed, Paya Wall said, "Let's go." Everyone soon gets their share of food and they begin to eat. Paya Wall was certain that this was a test to filter out the useful children. It was like that from the start, and he's certain it will continue until they fulfill their goal. Many children will die in the process for sure. They're all going to become his enemies if it comes to that anywhere. Yowal soon visits him and asks if he is still alright even after he made everyone here his enemy. She reveals that many children left Il-young's group after he did that, and her group became the biggest one. Wall reveals he has been observing them from afar. Notice that the girl eats the least after securing the most food for her group. That is why the other children are so loyal to her, and she no doubt stands out the most among the leaders. Yowal asks if he is still living in the dark room because the other children are wary of him. Wall's answer is that it is comfy there. In reality, he wanted to gain more tolerance to poison as well. Since being bitten is no longer painful, he guesses he has become more or less resistant to it. Yowal tries to convince him once again to join their group instead of staying by himself like this. Soon, everyone begins to gather around as the basket is lowering once again. But to the representative's shock, there was very little food compared to before. Wall, however, was not fazed in the slightest because he knew the test had begun. Mac Nossum is a boy who survived in the final sector and entered the group that Yowal leads. He had the smallest build in her group, but he pulled his weight through sheer tenacity, and now he was found dead. Many cried as they saw their dead body, desperate to seek revenge, but everyone knew why. The reason why Mac Nossum died was because he was the weakest. Chunwoo was also agitated, knowing they would take revenge if they knew who did this. But Yowal says that is not an important part. What is important is that someone who follows them is dead. Her eyes widened as she coldly said that they have to take revenge in the exact same way. It means that the weakest of another group will be killed next. Wall watches everything as usual, knowing that a war has started. Ultimately, the weakest of Yongsun's group was found dead. This was only the beginning. Every time a night passed, someone was found dead. One of each group, and they continue to die. The children started distrusting each other and became savage as demons from starvation. In the meantime, Wall continued to eat the disgusting moss, though he could never get used to its taste. The starved children still haven't come this far, but he is certain that peace will end soon, and it was just as he had expected. At least 4 of them were here. There is, of course, no way they came this far by getting lost. The group was led by none other than Il-Jung. They were talking about Wall, whom they had seen come here. Il-Jung had killed 2 people after their fight, and so now he thinks it is the perfect time to take revenge. Out of the blue, one of their members screamed in pain. His last words were that something bit his leg. They all began to panic. However, one by one, their members were succumbing to their deaths. That is, until 2 of them were left. Wall puts one into a chokehold. Il-Jung demands that he let go of his member in this incident. Wall could tell that the guy would die at this rate, and he will become a murderer at this rate. It might be all right to not kill him right now, but he will have to kill someone sooner or later. Il-Jung was furious and charged at him. But he could not defeat Wall, who threatens him that it won't end with just one eye this time. Il-Jung begins to panic as the boy approaches him closer and closer. In an instant, he suggests that they join forces. He even says he is fine with being an underling. Wall approaches him closer and says he is certain he will be obedient in the beginning, but he will try to pull the same thing he did today. The end result of all this chitter-chatter was Il-Jung's death. Wall walks away, saying that the reason he killed him is because he is still weak. Il-Jung's group was disbanded. It was because he and his confidants were found dead. The other 3 representatives were quite surprised. They all knew by now that Wall had killed Il-Jung. Yowal wonders to herself how strong the boy who had killed 4 people on his own is. The other 2 representatives also had familiar thoughts, knowing that they should not become his enemy. After all, he knows exactly what to do to make people fear him. The problem has already gone too far to be solved by distributing the reduced food between them. All people had to be killed to secure food. That is what one of the representatives thought. In the end, everyone has become a murderer, and so he orders his men to not do anything to Wall. After all, what could possibly be more terrifying than someone with nothing to protect? However, one of his members suddenly approached him in a hurry, revealing that there are 2 kids over at the red house in the north, and he thinks they have been banished from Yowal's group. He further disclosed they have a potato in their arms and they will eat it all if they don't hurry there. The representative sighed, unable to believe that they have to kill someone for just 1 potato, but they had no other choice. His eyes widened and he was frozen in his tracks as he saw the savage demons charge at the 2 kids. The kids ran away while the others followed them. He found the situation pretty weird. He knows this position is disadvantageous for them. Something felt off. As the kids made their way in, they began to whistle as if signaling something. Just their members with weapons come lunging in. One by one, they began to kill them. Their representative realizes it is a trap and orders them to retreat. However, they were surrounded by all sides. Yowal and Chinwoo smirk as they make their way forward. Yowal says it looks like they can reduce the number of mouths to feed by a lot today. The representative was furious, but asked if they could be satisfied with just his life. Yowal says that she would have listened to his request, but they cannot afford that much food. She says he would have done the same if he were in her position, and so she orders to kill them all. Just like that, one by one, they were all killed. Yowal looks up at Pyotwal, who is looking right back. Pyotwal notices people battling using terrain, various shortcuts and tricks, and building placements that make infiltration impossible. As long as there is competent security, this is an addition to a place that exists or a carbon copy. The people who made this place want them to become accustomed to it and used to killing people. They're trying to make use of them in a terrain like this someday. If there is a huge house like this, then that means this is the manor of a large clan or a very influential figure. The consequences will be massive if they attack this place recklessly. That is why they're using them. They are tools they can throw away after using once. They have thrown them into hell and are completely demolishing their nature. The tools that they want. Pyotwal has come to the conclusion that they are raising them to be assassins. The scene shifts to some of the children giggling and gossiping about the ways they resorted to in order to kill their fellow mates. On the other hand, Yowal was ecstatic that they had appeared victorious and certain no one would dare go against them now. Meanwhile, Lee Nim watches everything from afar and discusses, thinking she still smells the blood. Her hands were quivering, and she looked at the other members in shock as they had gotten used to murder. She wonders how they can eat so carefully and freely with hands stained with another person's. She found it disgusting. Tears filled her eyes as she thought about it. The moment arrives once again for the basket to be lowered from above. Instinctively, every child lifts their head, eyes fixed upward, hearts filled with cautious anticipation. Hunger has long since dulled into a constant ache, yet the faint hope of food still manages to stir something restless within them. Confusion soon follows, however, because the timing feels off. The basket should not be descending yet, and this small irregularity unsettles the already strained atmosphere. Yowal and her group were first in line. This time, they intend to secure as much as they can and finally eat until their stomachs are full. She is confident that, in their current state, no one among the children can truly stop them. Her resolve is firm, but her gaze inevitably shifts toward Pyotwal. She expects to see the same guarded calm he usually carries, yet what she finds instead unsettles her. His expression is unusually rigid. Chinwoo's complexion suddenly drains of color as realization dawns upon him. Following his line of sight, Yowal looks upward and the truth reveals itself in a chilling instant. Figures clad in hoods descend from above. Unlike the baskets that usually bring scraps of survival, these figures arrive bearing weapons. Without hesitation or warning, they descend upon the children, striking them mercilessly. Cries of pain filled the space. Pyotwal watches this unfold with clenched resolve. He had anticipated that something cruel would eventually happen, yet witnessing such immediate and blatant violence still shakes him. Even animals are not broken in such a manner, he thought. Still, he forces himself to endure. Any attempt to resist now would only draw attention to himself, and that attention could be fatal. He remains still, absorbing the scene while carefully observing every detail. His focus shifts beyond the masked attackers to three shadowed figures standing apart from the chaos. They do not participate, their presence exerting control, and Pyotwal understands that these are the true authorities behind the kidnapping. When one of these figures raises a hand and issues a command, the violence stops instantly. One of the three steps forward and calmly identifies himself as the first sword. His declaration leaves no room for misunderstanding. From this moment onward, the lives of everyone present belong to him, without exception. They will be controlled, managed, and shaped according to his will alone. While everyone becomes silent, one of the kids, driven by anger, dares to voice defiance. But before he could complete his protest speech, his life is ended in a single, ruthless motion. His severed body collapses before the others, blood staining the ground. Everyone was appalled, to say the least. The first sword speaks once again, coldly reminding them that he has not permitted any of them to open their mouths. The scene shifts to the first sword, revealing that they are curse poison. When you place poisonous organisms into one jar, they will eat each other until only one remains. The last one remaining will possess the most potent poison, which is cursed poison. Among the countless children, only the most wicked and the ones with the strongest survival instincts have survived just as they wanted. He wonders which of them is worth paying attention to. He had expected it to be Yowal, whose influence over the children is the greatest, as she leads the largest group. If they do not properly crush her spirit, she will become much harder to deal with in the future. He orders for her to be granted special attention, so she wouldn't even dream of instigating a rebellion. They also discuss how Chunwoo and Kang Il are also worth the attention. Though they have been overshadowed by Yowal, they are the most outstanding in terms of their senses toward martial arts. Then there is the sole survivor of Sector 1. The first sword is told that the boy is still alive. Sector 1 had the least amount of food and the poorest conditions, so survivors of that place would not be normal. And so, the first sword orders special attention to be paid to the boy as well. The first sword later mumbles to himself how there are only 6 years left and they must complete the request before then. It was a pretty weird request for his captain to accept, but the reward was way too much. The condition is to not leave a single trace related to the Blood Shadow group. The third sword points to the final house, telling the children that this is their objective. The one who reaches the flag fastest will receive a 2-hour break. On the other hand, the last one who reaches it will know what true hell is. Hearing this, the children instantly run towards the roof. The merciless days continued after that. Their days were filled with training to raise them into assassins. If they could not endure this process, then they would just die before they even get to see the outside world again, and so they must do whatever it takes to survive. Yowal and Chunwoo were the first to reach the flag during their first task. It was just how the first sword had predicted. She is the most exceptional, with outstanding intelligence and judgment. Yowal was credited around average, saying that he hasn't shown anything that distinguishes him from the rest. The first word thinks he was mistaken, as he was expecting more from him since he is the sole survivor of Sector 1, but they decide to keep watching him just in case. Yowal frowned as she saw Yowal reading about the thunder-splitting cultivation technique. She points out how he has already learned enough of it and that the instructors are not making them read it anymore. She asks if he even gets tired. She gives up, saying that she's going to sleep first. The thunder-splitting cultivation technique is a technique that even fledglings like you can learn easily. And so the third sword had given them 3 months to master it. Yowal was doing his best to learn it. The instructor has said that if you acquaint yourself with the first process, your body will be reborn as one that can feel and accumulate internal energy. The techniques that the instructors made them learn for them to feel chi, the thunderous flirting cultivation technique. Both the children and instructors consider it as nothing but a stepping stone for them. None of them seem to have perfectly comprehended the technique. Since it is not humanly possible to physically split under, it may be referring to the speed of your thoughts. Yowal reflects that if he were to approach the thunder-splitting cultivation technique with this particular interpretation in mind, he would undoubtedly obtain something fundamentally different from everything he had achieved so far. The technique itself had not changed, nor had its recorded principles, yet the way he now understood its flow, intent, and restraint opened paths he had previously overlooked. This realization settles deeply within him, reinforcing his belief that true progress often comes not from speed or display, but from silent refinement and control. Standing out, whether by being excessively gifted or conspicuously weak, would only invite danger. Until now, he has survived precisely because he has maintained this balance, carefully concealing his true capabilities while moving at a pace that appeared ordinary. However, his pretend act is disrupted when someone suddenly approaches him with clear murderous intent, forcing Yowal into a situation he had sought to avoid. As the attack unfolds, the boy opposing him is shown to treat the encounter as something hollow and unsatisfying if it remains superficial. Yowal, meanwhile, observes his surroundings with acute awareness. From the corner of his vision, he notices the third sword showing no concern whatsoever. Maintaining his composure, Wall continues to evade the attacks aimed at him. Even as hidden blades are introduced into the assault, he refuses to retaliate, choosing instead to dodge with precise movements. Seeing the boy had no intention of giving up, Wall knew he had no other choice. He releases his weapon, an action that shocks the third sword, who had not anticipated such a response. When the boy moves closer, Wall responds with decisive force, delivering a kick to the stomach that causes blood to spill out immediately, ending the confrontation with unmistakable finality. The focus then shifts to the first and second swords, who are assessing the broader situation from afar. The second sword determined that the overall mission will require only 5 years to complete instead of the originally estimated 7. This adjustment is attributed to the children's rapid growth. However, the first sword cautions against complacency, pointing out that the second sword is gravely underestimating their true target. The man they ultimately face is regarded as the most talented individual in all of Sichuan, someone whose abilities surpass conventional expectations. Against such a figure, even meticulous preparations may prove insufficient. Any miscalculation, no matter how minor, could result in the complete annihilation of the Blood Shadow Group. It is for this reason that the captain has taken the extraordinary step of training these children, despite their lack of direct connection to the group's goals. They are being forged into weapons to ensure that, even in the event of failure, the consequences will not spiral out of control. The second sword acknowledges his mistake in underestimating the target. In response, the first sword issues a cold directive to intensify the training even further. Many of the children will perish under this pressure, but those who survive will emerge far stronger than before, hardened enough to face what lies ahead. On the other hand, Wall ends up breaking the boy's arm. The first and second swordsmen who witnessed it approached him. When they confirm if he is the one who did this, the first sword points his sword at Wall. Wall was stunned to see how instantly he had drawn his sword. He wonders if he made a mistake. They want nothing more than just a useful tool. If he makes a mistake here, he will die. The first sword then begins to leave, telling him that an assassin must never leave a trace under any circumstances. Leaving a trace by breaking an arm like that is nothing more than letting your opponent know of your martial art and identity. He tells them all to keep this in mind. Everyone nods along. 6 years passed by. The children who were being trained to be assassins were now learning the turtle breathing technique. It is because an inexperienced assassin's total breathing technique is bound to be noticeable. The instructor had caught everyone, but only one of them was left. He checks once again and comes towards a zone. He was told they would be fired if people were hiding in this zone, and he wonders if they were wrong. He guesses they might not be here. Plus, no matter how hard he searches, he does not sense any disharmony unique to a living human hair. He eventually gives up and tells them to come out. The child eventually does, shocking the instructor that he was hiding this close to him. It was Wall. He then asks for a break since training is over. The instructor grants it and he leaves, but he was furious and cursed at him. Jokson smirks as he sees Wall approaching, calling him Mr. Pompous. Jokson had now taken Quengin's face. Wall remarks that he will forget what his real face looks like at this rate, but the boy didn't care and says they will never get out of this place anywhere. Yowal, who was roasting some meat at the bonfire, points out how the food quality is gradually getting better. She says they will be given a mission soon. The scene shifts to the first sword taking off his mask. He thinks about how in the last 6 years they have raised 30 out of the 300 children into assassins. He guesses that children here are better off than him compared to when he started from rock bottom. He thinks he is approaching his death soon as he is becoming emotional. Just then, the second and third swords entered the room and questioned why he took his mask off. The first sword smiled, saying it was just stifling. As 6 years is long enough, he says they are free to take it off as well. The second and third swords exchanged mutual glances and took off their masks as well. They talk about how it has almost been 7 years and they will be freed from this place once the children are sent to the assassination. The second and third sword reports how the children have exceeded expectations. Some are stronger than the instructors and are almost beyond their control. It is too much of a waste to throw them away after one use. But the first sword says they have no other choice, as that was the request's condition after all. It is time for them to begin the final stage now. The final stage was soon announced to the children. The first sword reveals that 3 of them must learn the martial art technique in the books, and the other 27 of them must assassinate the 3 that have learned this martial art. Shock and fear were what was felt by the children. They couldn't believe the instructors were telling them to kill each other again. The first sword announces that this is their final training. Once they complete this, they will not force any more on them until they leave this place. This shocks them. The idea of leaving this place was indeed surprising and strange. Yowal was also taken back by surprise. Pyawal knew they threw quite a bit to them. The ones who learned that martial art will have a target on their backs. He guesses the martial art is likely the one that their assassination target has learned. It's probably on another level compared to what they have learned until now, and so he gets greedy and volunteers to learn it. Considering the risk attached to it, everyone turns to him in shock. Yowal asks if he is deciding to be a scapegoat of his own accord. She tells him to be careful. It is because everyone here will be targeting him. But Pyawal says he is looking forward to it and seeing if he becomes a scapegoat or a wolf. The scene shifts to one of the volunteers being killed by Chenwu. Chenwu does apologize after killing him. Turns out that guy had to learn the martial art after they all drew lots. Though he must feel wronged, they had no choice either. Now there is only 1 out of the 3 people who learned the martial art left, Pyawal. Their gang talks about how it has been a while since they lost sight of him. Li Min wondered if Pyawal could have gone outside. Yowal denies, guessing he's probably still inside. The last time she saw him was when they were in the middle of training a few days ago. She had told him that he would do better without the sword. She says she does not fear him with a sword for some reason, even though he is blocking all her attacks. This made her wonder if she gave him needless advice. After all, he is already a tricky opponent to handle. One of their members suggested killing the instructors instead. By this, it's probably far easier. Chenwu agrees but says there is no way they will let them be without any countermeasures. He is certain they have put some sort of restriction on them. Yowal agrees with him and suggests they think about removing the restrictions later and focus on finding their target first. As soon as they head out, Pyawal comes out. He had been eavesdropping on their conversation. He looks at the dead body and closes his eyes. He guesses that instructors are probably busy pursuing the children trying to find him. There is no way they wouldn't keep surveillance on children who are thinking about stuff like that. In that case, this may be his best chance to unearth their true objective. Pyawal discreetly makes his way to the instructor's temporary base. It is tightly guarded, but it is not something he cannot get through. The instructors had said the turtle breathing technique will be undone if you move. But he thinks if he uses the thunder-splitting cultivation technique to subtly split his breathing, it changes things. It makes it possible to move while erasing his presence to the absolute limit. He can move in a way that makes it impossible for the human area of cognition to detect him. And so, he exactly does that, making his way inside. Pyawal reaches the deepest point in the base. He looks everywhere, wondering what secrets they're hiding and who are the ones that are trying to raise them into assassins. Where is this place, and how can he get out? He eventually finds the mission guidelines, a top-secret document. The requested assassination was of Wu Gunsang. Apparently, the Shadow Group captain was given 7 years to complete the task. Pyawal remains appalled, wondering who this guy is. How great must Wu Gunsang be for them to spend 7 years raising them into assassins while testing and killing them? 270 out of 300 have already died. He wonders if he is worth doing all of this for. This made him extremely furious. He suddenly senses someone is coming. It was the first sword. Pyawal cleaned up as best as he could, but it is still sloppy. Hence, the first sword could easily tell that someone was here. He furiously approaches the second and third swords, revealing that there was an intruder in his room. Since they must not have escaped from the cave yet, he orders them to find him. They all begin to wonder who it could be. The third sword says there is no one more gifted at infiltration than him among the children. That is Pyawal. The THRD sword couldn't believe Pyawal would infiltrate this place when everyone is chasing him. The first ward says there will be a massive problem if they leave him be. The third sword says that if they punish him without solid evidence that he infiltrated this place, the opposition from the children will be great. The first sword suggests they direct their opposition to Paya Wall. That is by using the hell flute. This shocks the second and third swords, who remind him that this is the last resort restriction. The first sword says they will have to do it sooner or later. The time has come to show all the children who their true owner is and who has their lives in the palm of his hand. And so all three of them agree to the use of the hell flute. The first sword makes his way to the top of a cliff, thinking it is time to show them. In the meanwhile, Yowal and her group were still finding Paya Wall. Every child was agitated that they could not see even a trace of him. Yowal observes how even the children who were boasting about their tracking ability cannot find a single trace of him. She wonders where he could be if he is not in Sector 1 or here. All of a sudden they hear the sound of an instrument, and soon everyone begins to quiver in pain. Yowal also begins to feel stinging pain, and everyone begins to fall to the ground. Lee Min starts to cry. She wonders what is happening as it feels like an insect is devouring her entire body. Paya Wall looks at her, realizing that they have activated the restriction. While Paya Wall tries to comfort her, he realizes this is only a slight pain in the ear for him. But he wonders why he is the only one who is fine and decides to figure out the cause. Internal energy infusion is an extremely dangerous act, but it will not collide as much since Lee Min also learned the thunder-splitting cultivation technique, and so there are no issues with their internal energy. So he wonders what the difference between him and them is. Same food, same environment, same martial art. What else is there? He wonders if it is the poison. If the restriction has something to do with poison, then it makes sense he is fine in this situation. He has acquired resistance to poison from being bitten by the snake for a long time. Paya Wall wonders how did they awaken the poison dormant in 27 people's bodies all at once. It is impossible to activate poison with sound alone. What if the thing inside their bodies is not poison but a poisonous insect? What if they mixed cursed poison in their food and water while stimulating it through sound? Soon he notices the instructors approaching them, remarking that they have all collapsed over here. Paya Wall wonders what he should do. He does think about running away but decides not to. If he does, they might find out that he has resistance to poison. Just like he has been doing, he cannot let them know that he is different from the other children. And so, he falls to the ground, pretending to be in pain too. As soon as he was noticed, the first sword furiously approaches him and strikes his sword. Paya Wall screams in pain as the first sword interrogates, asking what he saw in his room. He says that Paya Wall did well hiding his accomplishments up until now. He says there is no way a protruding fang like him would have become blunt as he grew. He says a nuisance like him is better off being killed now. But the second sword stops him, saying that he is an expert in infiltration, so they need him for this request. The second sword says that they can manipulate the boy as much as they want since they have the health flute. He points out how powerless he is against the curse poison. The first sword gives up and orders the others to feed the children the antidote. They all eventually regained consciousness, wondering what happened. The first sword reveals that it is Paya Wall's fault that they were all punished. He says this would have never happened if he had not infiltrated their base. If any of them does anything like this, he threatens that all of them will experience today's pain again. Paya Wall later retires to his room. He has now confirmed that it was the snake venom that must have subdued the cursed poison. Unfortunately, he was able to escape from the restriction they placed on him. Yowal and the others soon set out to find him. They were all frustrated, unable to find him. That is until Paya Wall approaches them out of the blue. Yowal says they just wanted to talk about the restriction. She asks if he knows what it is. She says she is sure he wasn't there before they collapsed, but once they regained their senses, he was beside them. That means he approached them after the restriction was activated. So he was either unaffected by the restriction, or it had little effect on him. Hearing this, Lee Min's eyes widen as she remembers something. While she was feeling hazy because of the immense pain, she was able to endure it to an extent because someone infused internal energy into her. She wonders if it was Paya Wall. Paya Wall reveals that he knows about the restriction. But when Yowal asks what it is, he asks why he should go out of his way to tell her that. When they call themselves his comrades, he reveals that comrades would not chase after and attack each other with such zeal. Eventually, they swear to be his friends and not betray him. And so, Paya Wall reveals it is curse poison. They were all poisoned by a curse poison, which is a type of poisonous organism. It normally lies dormant in their bodies, but it raises poison in response to the sound waves of the flute that they blow. That poison flows through their blood vessels and attacks their internal organs. Yowal is stunned to hear this and asks how he is fine from that cursed poison. Paya Wall answers that he is normally resistant to poison, so it simply does not have as strong of an impact on him. He tells them to figure out how to remove the cursed poison on their own since he has told them everything. He thinks it is best to have as many variables as possible, even if only one of them escapes from the curse's poison effect. That would create countless variables. Li Min stares at him in confusion. She thinks of how she can never figure him out as he's always so mysterious. Yowal thanks him for his help, promising to repay him, and tells him to feel free to come see her if he needs anything. They all take their leave except for Li Min. She shyly reveals that her real name is Li Xiaomin. She smiles, saying that she wants him to remember it. She then leaves. Paya Wall is a bit taken aback. The scene shifts to the first sword, announcing that today they will leave this cave. The children were shocked as that day had finally come. He tells Yowal that it is her turn to lead the children outside after the instructors leave. She smiles and agrees. A huge basket is lowered upon which the instructors exited. They all wonder how many will survive. These children are strong, but the target is a martial artist with the highest level of talent in Jianghu. And so, it is certain they will have a hard time surviving. But the first sword thinks that is none of his business. Though his role is now over, he's going to retire and clean his hands off. This assassination life. After the instructors leave, the children rejoice and celebrate that they can finally get out of here. Yowal begins to organize the children around how they should live in the basket. But Paya Wall continues staring upwards, wondering if they're really getting out of here. They guess they will be included in the mission soon, but ask what happened with the cursed poison. Yowal answers that a few of them were detoxified, as Li Min knew a lot about poison. Paya Wall was a bit surprised to hear this. Now all that's left is for them to leave. Eventually, one by one, the children made their way up. The last crop soon makes their way up as well. Paya Wall was shocked to see how underground they were. It was not just a hellish place, but rather hell itself. He couldn't believe they survived 7 years in a place like this. As they were about to come out, Paya Wall instantly tears his cloth and covers his eyes, telling the others to do the same if they do not want to go blind. The others did as told. Their eyes hurt because the light was too strong. They finally reach upstairs and a man approaches, saying that they seem to have made some useful ones. He is certain that the requester will be satisfied. Paya Wall tries to guess who it is. The voice sounds like it is void of emotions. He can assume that he is in an executive position from his manner of speaking. He then guesses this man must be the captain of the Blood Shadow Group, Gu Jiang. Jiang orders them all to be loaded in the carriage. The order is for them to be moved to the Clear Wind Manor and acclimated to the outside world. Paya Wall takes one last look behind him, memorizing the Blood Shadow Group leader's voice. Once at the dwelling, Paya Wall washes himself from a nearby well. He then lies in the grass, finding it all refreshing. He was glad they were finally out of that hellhole. He stays there till the morning, enjoying the long-lost leisure of the open night sky. All the children were rejoiced and sentimental that they could see the outside world once again. However, that joy did not last long, as one of the Blood Shadow Group members approached them, suggesting that they keep their distributed weapons safe as they will be using them soon. Meanwhile, at the Great Room Palace, the first sword is appreciated by the Blood Shadow Group captain. He was then told to retire now, as all that he has done is a lot. The first sword talks about how it is truly a waste to throw those kids away after one use, as they're quite talented. Apparently, the Blood Shadow Group had still not figured out who the requester is, but they guessed they shouldn't cross the line if they want to stay in this business. Until the Blood Shadow Group grows enough to be on par with the greatest assassin group of Jianghu, the 100 Wraith Union, being as careful as possible wouldn't even be enough, he says. The Blood Shadow Group will take a massive leap forward if they manage to complete this request. Once they do, it is not impossible to catch up to that famous 100 right union. By night, the children are given their weapons and told to follow the fourth sword. He sees how they're all following him well without falling behind. It seems the senior brothers raised them well. He finds it a waste that these children do not fall behind in any way compared to their regular members. They all follow his every demand and hide themselves. He then reveals that their objective lies within that mountain. If they climb the mountain as per his instructions, they will see a manor that looks exactly the same as the one they are all living in among the buildings. The man inside the bright moon palace is their target. They were all frustrated, wondering who the hell is in there for them to be trapped in that hell underground for 7 years, training to be assassins. But Pyawal knew it was a man called Wu Gunseng. The scene shifts to a woman called Xiaolren. She is approached by the head of nuns. Xiao ran to greet her master, saying she was outside because the breeze felt nice. She says she feels inconvenienced as her life is on the line for this. Her master becomes furious, saying that she is taking quite the high and mighty tone. She says she must have forgotten who brought her in when she was just a child begging on the streets. Still, Xiaolren remained calm. The master says they will carry out the plan that they have been devising for the past 7 years if they don't give them the answer they want by today. They soon received word that they gave them the proposal that they wanted, and so the master rejoiced. She tells Xiaolren that it is all up to her now and that the fate of their sect rides on her performance. The master thinks it is a shame that she cannot make this talented child the rightful successor and only has to use her as a political tool. The scene shifts to Pyawal. He wonders if it is still morning and how much time has passed. He knows the assassination will take place at night, so they still have some time left. He is more accustomed to the darkness than outside. Fortunately, he can rest while standing like this. He suddenly senses that something is wrong. Suddenly, one of the children gets stabbed by a spear, shocking him. A man appears before them, and the moment he does, his expression settles into one of calm satisfaction. He smirks as he stares at the dead body. He states his doubts were true and that assassins truly are hiding here. The man is Yu Jinoke. He was enraged to see assassins hiding around Qingcheng Mountain. Without hesitation, he gathers his sect members and issues decisive orders. Every assassin needs to be found and killed immediately. Pyawal immediately understands the gravity of their situation. The balance of power is overwhelmingly against them. Recognizing this, he and the remaining assassins reach the same conclusion almost instinctively and begin retreating to preserve their lives. The sect members, however, are relentless. Rage fuels their pursuit as they find assassins jumping from their spots and fleeing. The children decide to disperse and regroup once they get out of the encirclement. Chaos ensues everywhere. Amid it all, Jinoke mercilessly threw spears at the assassins, killing them all like insects. It was clearly a cat and mouse game for him. That went on and on until he was left with the last of his spears. The spear comes flying toward Pyawal with lethal precision. He narrowly avoids it, feeling death graze past him. Instead of discarding the moment, he channels his strength and hurls the weapon back with immense force. This took aback the sect members, who were unable to decipher what passed them. Distracted, Pyawal takes this chance and kills them all in an instant. Meanwhile, the spear continues to tear through the air, wounding the captain's ear. Jinoke was infuriated and orders his subordinates to track him down. Even with that brief success, Pyawal knows the truth. This battle cannot be won as it is impossible to take them all on. Thus, he focuses on getting out of here first. In the back, Jinoke approaches a dying assassin whose body is already giving out. The assassin clings desperately to life, unable to comprehend how everything collapsed so suddenly. Jinoke remains unmoved, asserting that the mere act of infiltrating their prestigious sect as an assassin sealed his fate from the start. As Pyawal continues his escape, questions churn violently in his mind. How did the sect learn of their location so precisely? Their movement toward the mountain had been clean and unnoticed. They had not encountered a single outsider along the way. The conclusion is unavoidable. Someone must have leaked the information. But the realization troubles him deeply because only he knew their target's true identity. Then another detail surfaces in his thoughts. The fourth sword and his subordinates are nowhere to be seen. They had separated just before the ambush. At the time, it seemed insignificant. Now, the implication becomes horrifyingly clear. The ambush was intentional and they had been abandoned. The absence was not coincidence but calculated removal. This was the destruction of evidence. Before he can fully process it, pain explodes through his body as arrows pierce into him. Still, he refuses to stop. He forces himself forward. As he runs, many possibilities collide in his thoughts. Whether there was internal conflict within the Blood Shadow group or the requester had simply changed their mind no longer matters. One truth stands firm. The Blood Shadow group has discarded them completely. Drawing on the last of his strength, Paya Wall retaliates, killing the archer who had showered him with arrows. But seeing more sect members close in, he makes a desperate decision. He throws himself off a cliff and disappears into the water below. He survives the fall and continues his way through the forest. Along the way, he comes across a trail soaked in blood. He also finds a code on one of the stones, making him wonder who it is. He soon hears voices of angry sect members on a hunt for them. Paya Wall observes how they have set up an inescapable net merely to catch some assassins. Plus, the martial artists hunting through the forest wore different uniforms and their styles varied. From this alone, he deduces that at least 7 separate clans are involved. The scale of the pursuit confirms his suspicion. This is no isolated retaliation. It is an operation large enough to implicate the Blood Shadow group itself. Suddenly, an attack comes from a close range. He barely evades it. When he regains his footing and focuses on his attacker, recognition strikes him instantly. It is Li Min. The moment she realizes it is him, a faint smile appears on her face. It is as though a great weight has finally lifted from her shoulders. A sense of relief washes over her and her body gives in all at once. She collapses forward and Paya Wall reacts immediately, catching her before she can fall to the ground. The instant he supports her weight, he realizes how her injuries are far more severe than they first appeared, and her breathing is also unstable. As she gathers what little strength she has left, Li Min discloses that most of the children did not survive. The group had been scattered in the chaos, and death claimed them one by one. She does not know what ultimately became of Yowal and Chinwu, only that she witnessed them remaining behind, fighting until the very end. They had refused to retreat, choosing instead to protect as many people as possible, even when it was clear that survival was no longer guaranteed. Paya Wall studies her condition with a heavy gaze and concludes that she does not have much time left. Li Min, already aware of this truth, meets his words with a composed expression. Paya Wall quietly puts her down on the ground. Seeing her calm and collected, Paya Wall's eyes widen and he asks if she does not want to live. Li Min says she does and asks whether there is any way he can save her. Paya Wall turns his gaze away, unable to offer false hope, and denies her request. Li Min exhales softly, as though confirming what she already knew. She says she has already given up fighting her fate and instead finds comfort in the fact that she will not face death all alone. A faint smile appears as she asks him to remain by her side until the very end. Paya Wall agrees without hesitation. Li Min reflects on how everything led to this conclusion. After everything that they went through to survive, this is how it ends. She cannot help but question the cruelty of it all. Somewhere far away, someone she has never even seen had controlled her life, stripped her of choice, and forced her to be crushed beneath an overwhelming and merciless power. She harbors a single wish that those responsible will one day experience the same despair she has felt. Paya Wall then reveals the truth he has uncovered. Their assassination target was a man named Wu Gunsang of the Qingcheng sect. Everything that happened to them was part of an intricately designed plan. They had been raised, shaped, and used only to be discarded now that they were no longer useful. He states with certainty that as long as he survives, uncovering the identity of those who destroyed their lives will not take long. He vows to hunt them down and exact revenge, even if it costs him everything. Li Min places her trust in him without hesitation. She believes that if anyone can accomplish such a task, it is Paya Wall. There is no smile on her face now, only sincerity, as she expresses her wish for him to survive no matter what. She then softly asks him to call her by her real name. He does as she wishes, and upon hearing it spoken by him, she offers her final thanks. It is something she had wanted to hear from him all along. With that small wish fulfilled, Li Min succumbs to the darkness. Wall remains there, holding her as life leaves her body. He swears that he will erase those responsible from the face of this land and carve their end with his own hands, ensuring that their sins are never forgotten. The scene shifts to the fourth sword, revealing to the Blood Shadow Group's leader how they set up inescapable nets so it is impossible for them to survive. The captain says it is truly a waste that they had to throw them away after all the time they spent raising them. He says he knew there were pawns to be thrown away, but he never expected to throw them away before they even got to use them. The fourth sword questions if this place is also not in danger. He says he doesn't know why, but they chose to destroy the evidence. He questions if it wouldn't be much more effective for them to eliminate them as well to fully prevent the secret from getting out. The captain says that makes sense, but they will not be able to find this place. They just have to wait here for the storm to blow over. The captain says he does not know who the request is to read, even though he can find out at any time. It is because there is a line to be kept. They even warned them by sending them this message, so there is no reason for them to cross the line first. As the fourth sword sees the message, he instantly yells about how someone put tracking incense on the message. Just like that, the manor was ambushed. The first sword orders all of them to retreat, as they are no match. Even though the fourth sword tells the captain to retreat, he says they are aiming for him. And so furious, he decides to show them that they will be the ones devoured if they bite them. He was confident that they can win as long as they keep holding on. However, the man soon approaches them, saying that they will not have that opportunity. And it was just like he said. The captain's eyes widen as he sees the requester was from the Amay sect. He should have known that they were related to this from the very start. He regrets the fact that he didn't investigate who the requester was with the thought of not crossing the line. His incorrect choice has brought forth a disaster,